Russia, India's defense backbone. Why do we say that? What's the interdependence between India and Russia, and how important is Russia when it comes to India and India's defense capabilities? How has India survived these years of sanctions against Russia? To discuss all this and more, I'm being joined by Mr. Arvind Dixit, former DRDO scientist, also an attaché here at the Russian embassy, and Polina Chupriyanova, who is lead sanctions program at Russia International Affairs Council, that's RIAC. She'll be talking about sanctions, but Mr. Dixit, first to you. Defense backbone of India when it comes to Russia, where do you see it headed in a very difficult and turbulent time?
Thank you for this opportunity. The India-Russia defense cooperation needs no introduction. Even a 10th class student in India knows what is our defense relationship. It's almost 6 decades of cooperation, which is gradually increasing. It started with the dependency, now it is turning to a point of cooperation. It's a very big migration. Cooperation indicates that it's not only we depend on Russia, in some sectors there is a dependency from Russia towards India also. There is a very important issue which I want to highlight here, that though our cooperation is increasing day by day, but there are certain technologies where both the countries independently are not self-reliant. I am talking about the mill standard or defense application semiconductors.
That's right.
A semiconductor per se, when we say, everybody talks about silicon, right? And the equipment and the devices produced by semiconductors are generally used for the commercial sectors like computers, your television, your mobile phone,
But
etc.
also in defense.
But when you talk about defense semiconductors, there is a big difference. In consumer electronics, silicon is the basic material. But when you talk about the defense electronics, silicon is no more a suitable material. You need specialized materials like gallium arsenide, gallium phosphide, gallium nitride, silicon carbide, silicon on insulator.
Is that all available in Russia, or are we looking at China? What are you trying to get?
No, please understand that the technology exists in India as well as in Russia, but at a nascent stage. Because the kind of equipment and machinery, especially the lithographic machines which you require for such high-end defense application semiconductors, they are not easily available, especially to Russia because of the sanctions. However, if you talk about the theoretical knowledge which Russia and India together possess in the defense-grade semiconductors, there is a big opportunity to fill this gap of producing the military standard semiconductors specially used in the radars and the missiles.
Right, because you mentioned sanctions, let me just get Polina in. Russia is under sanctions, but it's American sanctions, European sanctions, country sanctions, not specifically sanctioned by the United Nations per se. How does Russia and how do countries like India then handle the pressure of sanctions and yet engage Russia on defense?
Yes, thank you very much for your question. I think that sanctions is one of the main problems, not only for Russia, but just for Russian partners abroad and for Indian partners as well. And today, one of the main challenges for Russian-Indian cooperation and even Russian-Indian cooperation in defense sphere and other sensitive spheres are secondary sanctions. There are several legal mechanisms which creates major risks for our cooperation, and maybe we return to them some later. Now, I would like to say that I think that there are several methods and ways how to solve the problem.
Is there a way to get around the sanctions and yet engage?
Yes. So several ways how we try to solve the problem of sanctions pressure. For example, one of them is transactions in national currencies, in so-called compromise currencies. And this is not an aside, right? However, the problem is that such transactions fall under some executive orders of the US and other. What is more, I think that it is very important to create an ecosystem of, if we are speaking about India, ecosystem of Indian banks, Indian financial institutions, Indian companies, which are oriented on the Russian markets.
Okay.
Yes. So in this scenario, there is a high probability that such companies may be targeted by secondary sanctions. However, the significance of such measures will be less important for them.
Right, if we start trading in national currencies. But another very important announcement that was made during the Dubai Air Show was that of technology transfer. No country has done it the way Russia is promising India when it comes to Su-57s. Is that a possibility? And moving from there to maybe make in India if there's absolute technology transfer?
Su-57 has been offered to us. However, there is still a political decision to be made whether India is going to take this technology under full technology transfer. It is the choice of the end user and the political decision. However, you correctly pointed out that no country in the world is going to give you the full technology transfer for such high-end aircrafts. This is a very good opportunity for India to look for it, like we have done in case of BrahMos, like we have done in case of Su-30. Su-57 could be a very, very good choice.
But is the world is watching? Trump would be watching. Do you think that certainly is going to create a problem in terms of decisions that could be announced during Putin-Modi meeting?
They have been watching us for past 60 years, right? Let them watch. It's a decision between the two political leadership. What is good for us? Let us not bother about who thinks what against us or about us. It is our nascent requirement. This is our fundamental requirement. See, we have been promised a lot of technological support by the Western countries, right? But of late, there have been major delays in the supply, which has defeated our indigenous development program. So when a country, a trusted partner like Russia is offering you the complete technology transfer to India for such an excellent aircraft, why not take it?
Absolutely, because India is still waiting for the GE engines. Polina, is there a reading, an assessment that people like you do when countries like India are talking to Russia on acquisitions, that what could be the next step of sanctions that Russia could suffer?
Oh, it is very difficult to predict right now. However, in fact, this is something about the extension of export control measures, blocking measures, and so on, which lead to problems with logistics and selling some products and technologies, I think. Something like this.
All right. Mr. Dixit, you know, another very important aspect is not just technology transfer, but also missile systems. We already have a BrahMos. Is there anything else that we're looking at where India and Russia could be making or taking steps to really move towards advanced missile technology cooperation, where we're looking at Make in India and making with Russia?
See, missile technology is a mix of different technologies. It has got mechanical system, it has got propulsion, it has got electronics. When I initially said that there is a need to co-develop the defense-grade electronics using the special semiconductor, this is a critical area where we must focus on a sovereign, strategic, non-Western semiconductor ecosystem for defense application. Because when a missile flies, it has got a head, right? That head is nothing but these semiconductors, the brain, right? And I am very sure that together, if we develop this ecosystem in any kind of a missile production, our joint cooperation will flourish.
Okay. And are we looking at a space where India and Russia can move not just in defense technology but also in nuclear? Because that certainly is going to be a very important aspect of the kind of conversations that the leadership is going to have. Is that a space that you can grow in at a time when, again, the West is watching both the countries very closely?
Yeah, our civil nuclear cooperation is well established. Now, taking a quantum leap and quantum jump to go for a defense nuclear cooperation is definitely a possibility. However, it depends on the two leaderships. And as I said earlier, people are watching us, let them watch. Our self-reliance in defense technology, keeping in view the threats around us, right, should be our major focus.
We'll talk about carve-outs, Polina, but before I come to that, just Mr. Dixit, again back to you. S-400 during Operation Sindoor was a grand success. Where do you see the cooperation and the acquisition or a deal on S-500s and future technology when it comes to defense systems?
S-400, a few units have already been provided to India, and I think a few more are in pipeline. S-500 is a much better version of S-400 per se, and I'm sure that in the coming days, the Russia will be happy to offer us S-500 also. Not only mere supply, but maybe the joint development of S-400 systems.
There have been a few waivers when it comes to sanctions, Polina, between India and Russia, and the West has looked at S-400 systems where we had said we need it for defense capabilities, so give us a waiver, and the US administration did that. Do you think that kind of waiver will continue for this or other issues such as oil, which we actually buy and give to Europe because Europe suffers during winters? Do you think there could be a waiver, an exception made for these areas by the US and the West?
Yes, such areas suffers from the US and Western sanctions really much. So I think that in the future the US will put pressure on Russian partners in energy sphere, in defense sphere, in technological sphere, so in very sensitive spheres to put pressure on it. However, we see right now that such attempts have failed. For example, we know that the US attempt to put pressure on India through secondary tariffs for purchase Russian oil has failed because we know that such countries as Russia and India do not make any decisions under pressure. And this is not in sight, so I think that such tendencies will be continued. However, the economic effect will be quite limited.
Okay. And before I let you go, Mr. Dixit, strategic autonomy, is India or are India and Russia really practicing strategic autonomy the way they say it? Or are they going to be careful in the announcements because of the pressure from Trump administration?
Strategic autonomy we have been practicing for sure. Announcement per se for the increasing cooperation, especially in the field of defense, is again a political decision, and to take a call on to where to go, how far to go. Such meetings are held every year. 1 year, Indian Prime Minister comes to Russia, another year, Russian President goes. So let this secret be opened by the
Okay.
two bosses.
Let the secret be revealed by the two bosses. We've been talking about sanctions, but absolute clarity is that the two countries are practicing strategic autonomy despite all the sanctions, all the pressure, and the world watching the two countries. President Putin is going to be in New Delhi. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.